to do the little tour. It is. Yeah, it is. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I want to try it.
Ready? At this time, I would like to reconvene the regular board meeting. Clerk of the board, please call the roll.
Solis?
Present.
Segura?
Present.
Pike?
Here.
Hall?
Present.
Tarantino?
Here.
Janney? Here. Pangilinan?
Here. And now we'll hold a moment of silence and keep in keeping with previous board members, we'll keep in thought the shooting victims of yesterday, but also the last year, and as well as Senator John McCain. And then the Pledge of Allegiance led by our student board member. Please stand.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The board met in closed session preceding this meeting to discuss the following issues. 1, Public Employee Evaluation Appointment Transfer, Government Code Section 54957. Number 2, Public Employee Discipline Dismissal, Release, Reclassification, Reassignment, Resignation Transfer, Government Code Section 54957. Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, paragraph 1 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9. Number 4, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, paragraph 2 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9. Conference with labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. The board took the following action. Moved by Pike, seconded by Solis, to approve the appointment of Ronald Malone as Director of Maintenance with a vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Moved by Pike, seconded by Solis, to approve the appointment of Janaea Quirk as Director of Planning and Construction with a vote of Hall yes, Pike yes, Segura yes, Solis yes, Tarantino yes. Congratulations to both of them. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda for the August 27, 2018 regular board meeting with the change that the board will hear the CBOC report before the Planning and Construction Board items. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Segura.
Second.
Second by Solis. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
The board is very pleased to welcome the principal of Granger Junior High School, Mr. Arturo Montaño, who has the presentation for the board. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Arturo Montaño, and I am the proud principal of Granger Junior High. I want to welcome the board and the superintendent and cabinet and everyone here at this meeting for giving us the opportunity to host the meeting. So thank you very much. And I have a short video that we're going to begin with, and then we're going to pause it, and we're going to showcase a few items of some of the things, exceptional things that we've done here at Granger Junior High. Karina, go ahead.
Hello, excited 2013, Granger Junior High School won the INCUS Award. Granger was named Schools to Watch in 2013, 15, and 2016.
Okay, we're pausing right here, and these are the SBAC scores for this year, well, last year, 2017. These are the SBAC scores for the year 2017. They came out, and basically I wanted to showcase that for 7th grade English language arts, we have the 4th highest scores behind Eastlake, Rancho, and Bonita. Same thing in 8th grade English language arts. We have the 4th highest test scores in the whole district of all the middle schools. In mathematics, we have, I believe, in 7th grade, we have the 6th highest, and in 8th grade math also, we have the 6th highest scores of all the middle schools. Right here, I want to mention we have an AP Advanced Placement Program here at Granger for our 9th graders for World Geography. And in our first year in 2016, it was our first experimental year. We had 8 students pass the test out of 54 students? No, 58 students. Out of 58, only 8 passed the exam 3 years ago. In 2017, it was our second year, and we had 7 students pass the test out of 69. So we were still evolving, trying to get better through the PLC work, observing other schools in our district. And this year, out of 76 students, we had 3 students pass with the score of 5. We have 6 students pass with the score of 4, and we had 16 students pass with the score of 16, for a grand total of 27 students who passed the AP exam as 9th graders. So we went from 7 all the way up to 27 this year. So our AP teachers are doing an outstanding job in getting our students prepared for that test.
Within the whole district. Our knowledgeable team is one of the best in the district. In 2018, they won 2nd place, and in 2017, they won 1st place. In Math Field Day, we placed 3rd place in 2018 and 4th place in 2017. Our skiing club has a great reputation, constantly winning at every Mesa competition since 2013, the Sweetwater Solar Spring Challenge, and it was selected by the National Science Foundation to pilot a global initiative, Design Squad Global. In 2014 and 2015, Granger's team won the San Diego County STEM Championship Award and was recognized for its computer recycling program. In 2017 and 2018, Granger was the recipient of $6,000 grants for their anti-problem gambling initiative. Our FFA team is recognized as the best dance team and has won 1st place at the prestigious Sharp International Middle School Division at Knott's Berry Farm for 2017 and 2018. But that's not all. Granger Junior High School has more in store.
Thank you, Karina. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we have an exceptional school here at Granger, and I'm very proud to be their principal. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was excellent. We will now have an update from our superintendent, Dr. Karen Janney.
Thank you, Mrs. Hall. Welcome, everyone, to our board meeting. Thank you, Principal Montano, for your presentation. And we also want to thank your Griffin staff for preparing the way for tonight. It takes a lot of preparation to put all of this in place. And so thank you very much, and thank your team for us. So we are a part of an incredibly giving community. And let me tell you why. This weekend, I want to share a few ideas of why I think we're an incredibly giving community. Yesterday, there were 2 events where students, staff, and the community shared a common goal. They worked together to make it happen, and now we are celebrating those accomplishments. And these events didn't happen in isolation. It happened only with the organization and planning of committed people who truly believe that each person can make a difference in our world, not just our community, but in our world. So first of all, there was the 4th annual Christian's Big Heart Run, 5K run, in memory of Christian, who was an Olympian graduate and who passed away the day before his 19th birthday of sudden cardiac arrest. So some of you may know this, and some of you don't, but Christian was my nephew, and our family organizes this 5K run every year to raise funds to donate to the Eric Paredes Save a Life Foundation. And Eric also died of sudden cardiac arrest, and he was a 17-year-old Grossmont student athlete, whose parents then, after he passed away, created this foundation that now offers free screening for youth between the ages of 12 and 25 in hopes of preventing that tragedy for some other family. And so yesterday, over 400 participants gathered at Roar Park to remember Christian and his big heart. And Sweetwater students and staff, they not only volunteered, but they also ran. The cheerleaders from Olympian and Eastlake were there to cheer on the runners. Our goal every year is to raise at least $30,000 to help pay for the ongoing heart screenings provided by Eric Paredes. And so that's the second event. So yesterday, between 9 and 3, the Eric Paredes Save a Heart Foundation, the Screen Your Teen, was scheduled at Otay Ranch High School, so between 9 and 3 o'clock. So I dropped in by the afternoon, and they said that there were about 800 youth that had already come through the lines. They're hoping that that would increase. They had 800 registrants, but so they're hoping to have more than 800 students yesterday. Again, from our nurses to our ASB assistant principals and advisors to our teachers and coaches who shared this opportunity with their students, we thank you. And to the doctors who volunteer their time and other nurses who volunteer their time at the screening to make this happen for our youth, we're also grateful. And special thanks to the Otay Ranch staff, because again, like tonight, nothing happens at a school, and our schools are used constantly by the community without the staff and the students who are the ambassadors for us and to welcome our guests. So I just kind of wanted to share those 2 great events yesterday, and it was a big success. And then Saturday evening, I attended the San Diego Symphony Bayside Summer Nights. Maybe you've attended there before. Saturday night was paying tribute to the Four Tops and the Temptations. So it was a lot of fun. Some of the people in this room will remember them more than others. Some people are like, oh, who are the Four Tops and the Temptations? But those of us who remember, I can tell you there was a diverse group of 2,000 plus people there, different ethnicities, races, gender, generations, and the music was still energizing and heartwarming for all of us who showed up. In fact, even though there were a variety of people listening, there was still this common experience and recollection of the great songs of that time in the music industry. And you know, we all believe, I think, and John Chakowski's in the audience, he knows music has a very special way of connecting people, all people, in appreciation of not only the creativity of the artists, but the melody and the lyrics. And I could tell you that night that most of the people there didn't necessarily remember all of the words, but we remember enough to sing along and feel nostalgic about those times in the 60s and beyond. So why did I bring that up? I brought that up because it also made me think. I was sitting there watching all of the people kind of get into this evening of the music. And it made me think of our work in education and our work in Sweetwater. We have a very diverse group of educators coming from a variety of backgrounds and experiences, serving a diverse group of students coming from a variety of backgrounds and experiences. And yet, we have an agreed upon common approach to teaching and learning through a lens of equity and culture. And we think and know, like I shared at the last meeting, it's important to consider our beliefs and our behaviors, our classroom and school culture, and the social emotional learning of each student before we even consider the curriculum. And I can tell you right now that that's not very typical for many districts and many educators when they plan their work. But this work is foundational for us in Sweetwater. It's a unique approach for an entire district to undertake. And I want to thank our board for supporting this approach and supporting us in this effort. And I also want to show appreciation for all of our stakeholders, our teachers, our counselors, our nurses, our librarians, our support personnel, administrators, everyone for being open to approaching our work in this way for each student. We believe that no other district is undertaking this model, and we believe that this is going to make the difference for each of our students and each family that we serve. So I wanted to share that kind of the connection between music and education. And then finally, I would like to remember, I know Mrs. Hall talked about Senator John McCain, who passed away this weekend. And as we have heard through many media accounts, we know that he served as a naval officer, as a prisoner of war, as a member of both Congress and the Senate, and he ran for president in 2008. Most notably, though, he was known to choose principles over party or politics on many occasions in his service to our country, because he really believed in doing what was the right thing to do and what was good for the country. So when he made mistakes, he owned them. And when Senator John McCain was a bridge builder, he lived his life as a lesson for all of us to follow, to serve a greater cause than ourselves. And I don't think that anyone could have said it better when President Obama said that few of us have been tested the way John once was, or required to show the kind of courage that he did, but all of us can aspire to the courage to put the greater good above our own. And so I would like just hope that we follow his lead and be bridge builders one person at a time. And then tonight I want to take a special moment, and she doesn't want us to do this, but we're going to do it anyway, to acknowledge Karen Michael. It's her final board meeting. 22 years. I'm going to get a little emotional. Come on up, Karen. Karen was a budget analyst. She was director of finance, and now she's leaving as CFO. Karen was a Hilltop grad, right? No, my children have been Bonita grads, okay. But you went to San Diego State? Okay, San Diego State, and she came back and worked with us. And she's done a lot of great things in finance, but probably the thing that sticks out the most is that over the past 4 years as CFO, she, through the debt financing, refinancing transactions, has saved our taxpayers, I've got this number, $82,559,628. So in her retirement, we're giving her the biggest star we have, right? Because we give Sweetwater stars. Sweetwater star, Karen Michael. Can you take a picture? Yeah, take a picture out there.
So I just wanted to take a moment to thank the board. It has been truly an honor and a privilege to work with you and to serve you. I'm so grateful that you came on board at Sweetwater and helped us make this the district that it once was, a great place to work and a great place for our students. And I know that you honor our students and you support them, and that is my passion. And so I appreciate it, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
I just want to say Karen has done a tremendous job to answer to all the many questions we've had and the hours that we've spent in special committees and in special meetings, and I really thank you for that. And now we'll hear from our board representative, our student board representative, Brenna Pangelinan.
Yes, Pangelinan. Yeah,
Pangelinan.
perfect.
Pangelinan.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I think I briefly mentioned at the last board meeting that I'm planning to just spotlight one school specifically at each board meeting, just to give a little more insight on what's happening at the schools. So this last President's Council meeting, I was able to have a report by Otay Ranch High School. So their president, Jordan Hands, created a really, really good informational report and actually got a lot of her ASB students involved and reached out to a lot of their students. So I feel like I do definitely have a comprehensive view of what's going on at the school. So I thought I would split it into just two different sections, some things about the school that glow, and then some parts that need to grow. So with that said, yeah, glow and grow. So at Otay, yeah, yes. So at Otay Ranch High School, school spirit is definitely an important aspect of Mustang culture. She definitely made it clear that the Mustangs are very proud to be going to school at Otay Ranch. There's a very diverse and friendly student body, so that was nice to hear. It definitely has a homey environment. There are a variety of safe spaces for minority students, such as the Gay Straight Alliance, so students definitely feel like they have a place to go if they need to. And Otay Ranch has recently tried to modify its dress code guidelines just to, in attempts to create a less stressful learning environment. So the staff still does dress code, but has evolved to more reasonable guidelines that fit our time. So she definitely made it clear that students, especially female students, feel that a burden has been lifted and they can wear normal clothing of their generation that doesn't demand change because it is deemed as inappropriate or as a distraction for the boys at their school. So some things that she mentioned that needed to grow. So VAPA programs, she mentioned that struggle at Otay Ranch compared to their STEM and sports. For example, photography only has a couple of cameras to work with, so a lot of their VAPA programs feel like they are underrepresented. They feel that they need recycling bins. It's definitely taken a full generation to instill these morals of preserving our environment. So my generation for sure feels the need to do anything they can to help the environment. So it only seems fit to provide that way of doing what you believe is right. Bathrooms were mentioned. They need some improvement. Mirrors are completely scratched off. So that was the glow and grow of Otay Ranch High School. We kind of went into overall discussion then, and many schools have implemented something called tardy sweeps, and not just one, it was at many, and this includes teachers locking their doors and then campus assistants sweeping students to the office in order to assign Saturday school or whatever this school requires for tardy students. And the concern from the President's Council wasn't necessarily the tardy sweeps themselves, but just the execution of this approach. Many campus assistants are extreme in the way that they sweep up students. They can be 2 steps away from their classroom, a couple seconds late, and they're taken away to the attendance office to wait in a line. And the question was, if the issue at hand is missing out on education, is waiting in line just taking you further from the learning process? So that was definitely something that the students were concerned about, because they feel like the rigid enforcement has just reached an unproductive level. We also are planning we were thinking of ways to promote the attendance month. So we were thinking of planning a video competition between all of the schools in our district to promote attendance month, and then maybe a winning school could be given a prize or something. But that was just a way to promote attendance. And that was mainly what we discussed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. And it's really nice, I think, to hear one school, you report back with a focus on one school each month, because or each meeting, it helps us understand what's going on in particular. You can dive deeper into some of the issues. So that was good. Thank you for that. Okay, so now. This is a point on the agenda where members of the public may address the board on any matter not on the agenda and have 3 minutes to do so. The Board of Trustees cannot legally take action or respond to matters not posted on the public agenda, but will refer the matter to the superintendent's office for review and report. And we thank you for your understanding and your cooperation. Clerk of the board, will you please read the items being pulled from the consent agenda?
We're going to do the speakers.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
Claudia
I
Abarco.
just skipped right on ahead, so we'll have the speakers now, please.
Claudia Abarca.
Thank you. Is this on? Yes. Good evening, everyone. My name is Claudia Barca. Is it on?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. First, I'd like to thank you all for being here. I think it's great that you are actually in the community, making yourselves accessible to us parents who have concerns and may not be able to attend meetings at your regularly scheduled location. I'm here today to advocate for the upgrade and remodel of this campus. I grew up in National City. I'm still a resident of this area. And I went to Granger Junior High. I went to Sweetwater High School. I have a degree in business administration. Went to San Diego State, work for the city of San Diego. When I come on campus, I actually have my son here. He's in 8th grade. And when I come on campus, I think the only thing that has changed since the time I have been here is this library. This is the only facility I think that has actually been added to the campus. And it really does break my heart. You saw the presentation that Mr. Montaño gave, and I think one of the things that he failed to, or not necessarily failed, but what he didn't cover was the student demographics that we have at this campus. There's, I want to say 90% of the students are English language learners. But when you see the scores that they're achieving on their testing, their attendance at the school, and they're right up there with those students from Eastlake Middle, Rancho Del Rey, which is a different demographic than what you have in National City. I mean, I can only imagine what they would do if they have a better facility, right? And they have access to the state-of-the-art facility as these other kids do. So I invite you, if you can. I don't know how the facility assessments get conducted. I know for my organization, we have a certain matrix that we follow when we review our buildings to see what the longevity, right, what the codes and things of that nature. I don't know how it works here. I tried going on the facility's website. It wasn't very easy to navigate. However, I don't know what that matrix is, but I do invite you all to come to the campus to see what it looks like out here, to see what the students need, and compare it to the other middle schools in the district, and see if there's anything that you can do to help prioritize making this a better facility for the district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeanette Collado Tacto? Sorry.
Good evening, Superintendent Janey, Governing Board, and guests. My name is Jeanette Colada Tacto. Think of it as pina colada and tic-tac-toe. I am a proud product of National City. I went to school at Altion School, graduated from Granger Junior High and Sweetwater, class of '87. I'm also a teacher in National City at Altion, and I know some of your relatives there. But one thing I want to talk about is through National City and through Sweetwater District especially, I learned how to be proud of who I am. I learned that my voice matters. And I learned that to always remember to make a difference and to give back to the community. So here I am as a parent. My two older kids graduated from Granger and are currently at Sweetwater. And I have a third child that's here at Granger. And I see a lot of things that were here back in '84. A lot of things that needs to be really looked into. I am very grateful and thankful that we finally have air conditioning in adapted room, which really helps with the indoor PE process, but I know there are lots of other things that needs to be done as well. I don't believe there's like air conditioning in the locker rooms or other things going on. But Mr. Montano mentioned about all the wonderful things happening at Granger, and I got to share a story that one of my colleagues, her son was involved with robotics, and I believe they went to like I can't remember what school he was at, but she was telling me a story that as the schools, as their bus was driving to Granger, they made comments like, "This is such a ghetto school. This is such a ghetto school." And it hurts because we were still a ghetto school back then. But I think right now there's more money that can be spent, and I really thank you all for having a meeting here. But I really challenge you to take the time to come visit Granger, talk to the teachers, talk to Mr. Montano, talk to the parents, and I really agree 100% what you said, that there's a lot that can be done to improve, and our kids are good kids. I'm teaching future Griffins and future Red Devils at Altion School, and I know, and I come back and visit to make sure that they're doing well. Otherwise, they'll see, I walk around, Miss Tacker's here. Oh, yeah, I'm going to haunt you. I'm going to haunt you and make sure that you're on task and you're not getting yourself in trouble, because it does take a village. It does take a village to raise me, and it takes a village to raise our future generation. So I really strongly encourage each and every one of you to come visit Granger, find out what the teachers need, find out how the kids are feeling, and do what you can to help them, encourage them, and to make them feel more proud of their campus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kathleen Cheers.
Good evening. I'd like to make a few comments regarding booster clubs. I know that you're working on a policy, and here's some food for thought or fuel for thought. Who is the district advocate for walk-on coaches? If a coach needs district support, to whom do they go? Mr. Hines' current position does not carry with it the authority to oversee a sports program as large as ours. If a parent or student wants to report bullying and or irregularities and want to remain anonymous out of fear of retaliation from a coach or whatever, who do they contact if they want to remain anonymous? Audits should be random. All booster programs should submit expense reports accompanied by receipts. Explain to me the equity of a school who is fortunate enough to benefit from thousands of dollars donated by a booster club competing against a school that has no booster club, a robotics program, a dance program, a sports program. I am confused. I expected more community members, teachers, and parents here tonight. I just saw the many accomplishments of the students and teachers of Granger. Perhaps this board should answer as to why their campus looks like it belongs in a third world country. More to follow on this. The teachers and students at this school should be extremely proud. I don't even live in the community, and I'm proud. CNN is showing a tribute to John McCain. I'd recommend all of you watch it. His nickname was the Maverick because he spoke his conscience and voted, putting country first versus self-interest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stuart Payne.
Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent, members of the board. About 30 days ago, you guys called a 9 a.m., maybe it was 10 a.m., special meeting to put a new bond on the ballot in November. That was about 3 weeks before the deadline to submit a support endorsement for that bond or a rebuttal endorsement for that bond. There seems to be some confusion between the county, the city, and the school district as to who is responsible for accepting these rebuttals. The community has the right to know about this bond. They have a right to know what a rebuttal to this bond would be. These two wonderful parents that just spoke to you probably would like to know that since 2000, you've had over $800 million for school construction, and you've done nothing to this campus. That might be, well, I shouldn't say nothing, but very little to this campus. So the deadline has passed, but the community deserves the right to put information, a rebuttal statement, to that bond, should they choose so. So I'm asking that someone here in authority reach out to the county and tell them that you are willing to accept a rebuttal statement to your bond. Considering the late hour in which you put it on the agenda and voted it on a Friday morning when parents and teachers and community members weren't able to attend that meeting. That's the right thing to do. That's the principled thing to do. We've been talking about John McCain several times tonight. That's the right thing to do. So I am going to ask that someone call myself tomorrow and let me know who we can contact to get that statement submitted. Thank you very much.
No further speakers.
Thank you. Okey-doke. Now, Clerk of the Board, will you please read the items being pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes, I have one revision. On Board Agenda Item G1, Southwest High School is being removed as a participating school, which decreases the total fiscal impact to $10,500. The board item and agreement will be revised after approval. The following items have been pulled. F3 by Mr. Tarantino, F5 by Mrs. Hall and Mr. Tarantino, F6 by Mr. Tarantino, F7 by staff, G2 by Mrs. Hall and Mr. Tarantino, G6 by Mrs. Hall, H1 by Mrs. Hall, M2 by Mrs. Hall, N1 by Mrs. Hall, Q3 by staff and the public.
I don't think this is all marked. Is that off of this one? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
I'll second. Okay.
Okay, so I have a motion by Solis and a second by
Kevin.
Mr. Pike. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Seguro?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes?
Sorrentino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
So, F7, are we having to report on F7 first, or we do F5 first? Well, it's not marked on, oh, F3 is Mr. Tarantino. Would you like to, do you want to do that now, or wait till at the end?
Madam President, in the past, we've done F3 at the end of the agenda, and so
That way we can add.
my thing was in response to something that was in the CBOC report, so it hasn't been, the
Okay, so
CBOC report hasn't been presented yet, so.
So we'll wait till the end of the meeting to do F3? Is that preferable?
That would help me out.
All right, that works for me,
Okay,
too.
thank
Okay,
you.
so we're going to put that one back to the end. So we'll look at item F4, no, F5, which I pulled. Let me see what I did. This is the no, that was N2. Oh, the grant. For the Perkins grant, can you tell me?
No, this is the Sweetwater Cares Board of
Oh, the
Directors.
Sweetwater Cares, sorry. Okay, so I believe, I don't know who wants to answer this one, Dr. Janney. And basically, it's just to have it out, for the people that might wonder, like I did, why we didn't advertise or go through a process of having people apply that wanted to be on the board, like a process
Sure.
instead of naming them. Do you want to kind of give a background on that for us?
Sure. Good evening, Mrs. Hall,
Good
Vice
morning.
President
Good
Pike,
evening,
trustees,
Manny,
Dr.
Mr.
Janney.
Rubio.
colleagues, friends, countrymen. So part of this, this is a separate entity. As a 501c3, this is a separate nonprofit organization that is technically unaffiliated with the district. And so we didn't open it up as a process like that because that's really something we would do for an internal type process. This is an independent board that will operate once the 5 members are in place. They will operate as an independent organization. So we felt that any sort of public process like that would be probably a use of district funds that really isn't necessarily the best. And part of the idea of this whole process of starting this foundation was support things that, for example, the district could not support. As we've mentioned, certain projects that we've done with our homeless and foster youth, some of our robotics events, things like that we can't support necessarily, but a foundation like this could.
Right, thank you. Thank you for the explanation.
Mrs.
That's all
Hall,
yes?
just to add one thing, so the
Can
two...
you, yes, General Counsel
Sorry.
Barbucha?
There are 2 board members that we call interested board members. Those are board members that do have a direct affiliation with our board, which is the real reason we brought it to you tonight. We are making a recommendation that Dr. Janney, and every superintendent thereafter, should that ever happen in 100 years, it would be that member, and then the second for now would be Mr. Rubio, who would be the district's 2 interested board members. And that is our piece, is those 2 individuals.
And there's a timeliness to this action?
There is a timeliness to this action. We have submitted paperwork, have a TIN number. We need to do a statement of interest that we have to file that within 90 days of the TIN receipt. And then from there, we have a 12-month window to get our 501c3 so that any monies that are collected would still be able to count towards that 501c3.
So a TIN, is that taxable
Tax
identification number?
number.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rubio. All right. So, do I have a motion to approve item?
It was also pulled by Mr. Tarantino.
Sorry. I didn't know. apologize.
No, that's
I
okay.
should start looking at left and right before I say that.
You get whiplash.
Yes. Go ahead.
I had a question regarding, in the bylaws, Article 8, it mentions that there may come a time when there may be a need to appoint or hire an executive director. And two questions. What in fact would be the conditions which would warrant bringing on board an executive director? And if such a person should be brought on board, would that be a paid position or not?
So I think that would be, if there was an opportunity for an executive director, that would really be at the discretion of this board, of these 5 members. And I guess, what would warrant it, I could just speak to, previous experiences that I've had in nonprofit organizations. You usually try to go as long as you can without a paid staff member. When there is a workload that warrants it, then you would definitely consider that. And oftentimes it's kind of phased in. So if you look at other support type organizations in our area that have supported our district, usually what happens is they will have somebody who's essentially the go-to, the day-to-day operations of it. If the organization ever got to that point, then it would be up to these 5 members, whomever they be at the time, to consider that.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else have questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve item F5.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion by Pike. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Tarantino. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item F6, Mr. Tarantino and the staff. No, that was F7 and the staff. So, Mr. Tarantino.
Yes, I'd like to begin by commending the ad hoc committee composed of yourself, Madam President, and Mr. Solis for undertaking this journey, which has been much needed in terms of advocating to our lawmakers in Sacramento, since so much of what we do in terms of finances comes from them. And I want to also commend you on your legislative platform that you've developed. And my question is, you have periodic meetings, and I'm assuming that there'll be reports to the board via the minutes, just like you had in this. And I was just asking for confirmation on that.
Correct. Right? We really haven't talked about how to report back, but I would assume that, we could either give a verbal report in addition to the minutes, because at some point, there will be also the possibility of board members bringing items they would like to see on our advocacy list, so that we could have that discussion also.
Okay.
Either with an F3 item or on a report, to talk about. Does that make sense?
Yes, answered my question. Thank you.
And I have to give a shout out actually to Dr. Janney and Deanne Pacedo, who helped put together the document, and also our California School Boards Association area legislative liaison, which is Raquel Marsden. Madden?
Madden.
Well, anyway, I always see her name hyphen, so that's why I say it that way. Raquel Madden, she did a great job coming to our meeting and helping us through some of this as well, and we're excited. Thank you. Dr. Janney, you want to say something?
I did, but I can't remember what it was.
But the whole thing is, we have set it up for 4 months, or 4 meetings, and to align with when work is being done by the legislative representatives, starting with the ones that represent us here locally, but also at the state level, where we have to work with a larger group in order to really get things through, and also to work not just within the body of decisions that may be done at the county CSBA delegation, but when we have things, especially for our own area or for the South Bay, for our district in particular, we really want to be able to bring that voice and have it make sense. And then part of that was that since this is an ad hoc committee, it would end June 30th of next year. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Jenny.
Okay, I do remember. In the item analysis, it talks about that if the board approves this item, that there will be a standing board agenda item added to the F items, where either the board and or community people could bring up topics that could go on the platform list. Okay.
So, yeah, so that you can bring it to us on that board item, and then we would, during our meeting, further discuss it. So, are there any other questions or comments? Mr. Solis?
No, I think you summed it up very well.
All right, so if there's no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve item F6.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Segura, second by Solis. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes?
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, now we're on to item F7, and we have a presentation from staff.
Yes, we do.
Which I believe Mr. Rubio will be kicking it off.
Yes, I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So good evening once again, and thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. First of all, before we start, I actually want to first thank and acknowledge my team members on this, Dr. Carberry and Ms. Carbuccia. This is a lot heavier focused on some of the work that I've done, so they won't be presenting tonight, but I just wanted to acknowledge them and obviously the work that we've done throughout the year, and this is kind of heavily focused on some of the digital work that we've done, so that's why I'm presenting alone tonight. The other person I'd like to acknowledge really briefly, and then I'll have him come up in a little bit, is Mr. Brian Epperson, who's in the audience. Brian is the CEO of Target River, who this board approved to do some marketing work with us. I'll be talking a lot about that in this presentation, and I'll have Brian come up afterwards and kind of talk a little bit about kind of what's next and a little bit about what we've done over the last few months. Let's see if this would work.
Oh, turn it on the side.
That's what I'm doing. Power is a good thing. All right. So here we have obviously our LCAP goals. Goal 3, specifically to foster and honor parent and guardian community engagement to support excellence in each student's success. So some of the community engagement that we've done, obviously we talked a lot about, and we keep going back to, I think in all of our presentations and our updates on our LCAP goals, we go back to that very beginning when we went out into the community and we asked our community members, what is it that you want to see? And one of the things that we heard very, very clearly from our community was they wanted things a little bit differently. They wanted, as you heard, actually one parent here talking about thanking us for being here tonight. They wanted meetings in their community. They wanted things at different times. They wanted some digital ways of being able to access what we've done. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that tonight. But they just wanted different ways to engage. It's 2018, and there's a lot of ways to engage with the work that we're doing. And so I think we've come a long way, but we definitely still have a lot more work to do. So in terms of community engagement, just a brief update on some of the work that we've done. We've continued to work with our community facilitators at the school site levels and district levels. I think we've, at last count, have about 15 at school sites and 1 at the district level who have engaged pretty heavily in the work that they've done throughout the district and working with our parents. We've held Board of Trustee meetings in the community. Tonight we are here at Granger Junior High School. Thank you to Mr. Montano and his staff for having us. We've been at Southwest High since the last time that we updated you all on this goal. We've done some work around safety and security. Mr. Chakowski was just here, but we actually did a second meeting. We had done one with Chula Vista Police prior to the last update, but we actually did a second meeting on school safety, which we conducted at Mar Vista High School in collaboration with the San Diego Sheriff's Department and San Diego Police Department. Where school safety obviously is a continued topic that we continue to address and we work with our community on. Parent Symposium happened since the last time I updated you on April 7th at Rancho Del Rey Middle, and you can actually go on to, and again, part of the new things that we're trying to do is document everything that we're doing in different ways. So if you go onto our YouTube page, you can actually see a video. If you go onto our Currents, which is our updated newsletter that we've done, the Currents is more current. now, and there's actually a podcast that we've done. In the second episode, we actually spoke to Dr. Lucena Perez, who's the Director of State and Federal Programs, and Dr. Perez and I talked a lot about what it is that parent engagement means and how it is that we're engaging our families here at Sweetwater. So you can go onto that site and listen to that. Here's some pictures from that day. Several of you, if not, I believe all of you were there. And it definitely a very exciting morning. We got to hear from Mr. Victor Villaseñor, who's a renowned author of several well-known works, and he spoke to our parents and really got the day off in a very exciting way and engaged and passionate manner, and really throughout the day that the energy was there for our parents to learn about a variety of different topics that were relevant to them. We've been engaging a lot more over the last several months with Hanover Research. Hanover, as you know, does our annual climate and culture and climate survey. We are now entering actually our 4th year of that. That'll be coming out in the fall. But we've also engaged with them on some different work. We've worked with Dr. Fulcher in his area, but we've also worked with Ana Maria and Dr. Lucena Perez on how do we get some more information on what parent engagement actually is. So we've developed a plan with them, and you'll see up there an assessment of need that was done by them. And they put out some potential projects for us to look at. And so here you see 4 projects: a parent engagement survey, what are some of the experiences that our parents have had with us, some research, kind of hard research type work on parent engagement, and then finally on metrics. So when we say what is parent engagement and successful parent engagement, how do you measure that? How can we go back and say, we had this thing and therefore it worked because? So obviously we want to be able to have some metrics around that. So we're going to be continue to work with Hanover on how do we do some of that and how do we learn from that. Some of the digital engagement that we've done. The camera right behind, everybody turn around, say hello. Hi. We started broadcasting our board meetings in November of last year. Since then, all of our board meetings, if you combine them up, we've had 3,100 views, over 3,100 views. We don't get big numbers. There's not 1,000 people right now watching the live feed, but one of the things we have found is that people are going back and they're watching them. And so several of our meetings, if you look at them, have 300, 400, 500. I think one of our most is like 700 views at one of our meetings. So people are very interested in what's going on. They want to know after the fact, hey, what happened at that board meeting? Can I go back and maybe reference something that was said or get a sense of what was going on? And it's working. We think it's definitely working. That also involved having our graduations. So all the graduations that are at Southwestern Community College for the 2nd year in a row, we've live streamed those as well. This year, we actually were able to look at some of the metrics in terms of where the views were coming from. And we actually had several views that were from different parts of Asia and the Middle East, which leads us to believe that were probably military families who were watching their loved ones on camera as they were graduating. That's a really exciting thing to have, and really something that we can say, really does give an opportunity for our families to engage with us. Social media engagement, that's something that we've continuously done a lot of work on. I'm sorry, I skipped one. Equity Symposium. Dr. Fulcher and the work that his team does in terms of the Equity Symposium, we brought you a lot of really some content, not just the event, but then content that we can kind of dig into afterwards. And so that involved things like some of the raw cut of Dr. Noguera. If you want to watch it, it's on there. But then some produced pieces that kind of show a little bit about the work that we're doing as a district on there. Social media. We've done some Twitter chats. If you look at Dr. Amy Illingworth, who's very active on Twitter, and a lot of the folks that she works with in her team, they've engaged in these monthly Twitter chats. And actually, I say monthly, but it seems like almost every day there's some topic going around Twitter where teachers and staff members and community members are engaging on a conversation about a specific topic around education. Twitter feeds of events such as our board meetings, different things we've gone to, all the ones we've talked about. We're always updating. There's always somebody from either my staff or somebody else who's out there kind of giving us updates on what's going on. I want to talk a little bit about another initiative that you as trustees approved, which is Mobile Up. Mobile Up was a mobile app that you approved a few months ago, and we went forward with a pilot at 4 of our schools, including our district office. So right now, Mar Vista Academy, Mar Vista High School, Bonita Vista Middle, and Bonita Vista High are live. The district office app will be up hopefully within the next 3 weeks or so. That's kind of our timeline. But if you go into the App Store, if you're an Apple user, go into the App Store. If you're an Android user, go into Google or Google Play. Do a search for just the school name, and you're going to get these. And so here you see Mar Vista High and Academy. There are 2 different apps. You see they're customized to look and feel of their schools. Each of the buttons on there is slightly customized, but essentially you get a lot of the same stuff, which is calendars, schedules, different messages, things like that. So people can be engaged on the go, wherever they are. They can engage with what's going on at their school site. Here you see Bonita Middle and Bonita Highs, also tailored to look like what their schools look like, and tailored to have the buttons that they require. Obviously, these just launched, so we don't have a whole lot of analytics just yet, but I promise you the next time we come, we will definitely have some of that, and we'll probably be providing those in updates as we go over the next few months. The big piece of what I want to talk about tonight is our marketing initiative that we have been working on the last several months. You as trustees approved this initiative in March of 2018, and it was an approach that we had worked with one of our feeder districts and several districts around the state and the county who have been working with Target River on getting the word out about our district. We engaged in several areas, including social media, print media, a blog, which actually is really interesting, and I'll come back to that in a second, TV ads, and Pandora and radio. So throughout all of this, we got a lot of folks saying, hey, I saw a commercial. I literally saw commercials during the World Cup in June. I've heard folks saying they saw it on the Weather Channel. They heard it on one of the local radio channels. They heard Dr. Janney's voice. They heard several things going on. So the word was out there about us. We had YouTube ads, and I'll show you, and this is actually our TV ad as well.
Middle school or high school? Maybe you are an adult seeking continuing education. Look no further than the wide variety of programs offered by Sweetwater Union High School District at any of their 32 campuses. Visual and performing arts, athletics, compact for success, STEAM, and career pathways in the 11 industries are just a few of the many things they offer. Call Sweetwater Union High School District at 619-304-3977. That's 619-304-3977.
So it says on here YouTube ads, but these are actually also the TV ads that we're showing. So if you're watching somewhere on Cox Cable, you probably saw this at some point over the 4 months of our campaign. You also probably saw on there is a phone number. It's a 304, and you're thinking, wait a minute, that's not the district number. I've called the district number. I'll talk about that in a second too, but it was a way that we were able to keep track of who we're calling directly related to this campaign. And we'll get into some of the numbers in a second. Facebook posts. Facebook's a big thing for us, maybe not so much for the students, but definitely the parents and the grandparents and the aunts and uncles, right? We all love Facebook. We definitely engaged in a big way on Facebook. I mean, these ads, these are two of the samples that were out there. And you see they were very straightforward, talking about what it is, who we are. If you clicked on it, you went to a website that was learn.sweetwaterschools.org. And again, that was another way that we could kind of track who's coming in, who's asking for information, things like that. On the bottom of one of them, you can see on there 7422 people reached. That's kind of small. I think we had some that were probably in the, tens of thousands that were engaged in terms of engagement on Facebook. So another area that we did pretty well on. This is the page that was created, learn.sweetwaterschools.org. And when they got to this page, there was a form, it's on the right here, where if somebody wanted information about our district, they could fill it out, they could send it in, it would come directly to us, to my office, or actually directly to Target River, who then shared it with us, with our office. And it had some more information about the district. And if you wanted more information, then it would click you off to another place, and you could keep going, kind of going through the web in different places where you could learn about us. Search engine optimization. If you've ever heard of this term, it's kind of techno-geeky, but I love it. SEO work. You'll hear someone talking about SEO and why SEO is important. Kind of on the back end of things, what this really does is how does it optimize, as the name suggests, optimize the way that people are searching for information about you on the web. And so part of that is increasing traffic, making sure that when someone goes to google.com and wants to learn, as you'll see on the bottom here, they want to learn high schools in Chula Vista, that you're going to be the first one that comes up. How do they look about the best high schools in Chula Vista? You're going to be the first one that comes up. And so there's a lot of work that gets done on the back end that really positions you in a way so that when someone's doing that work, they find you and not somebody else. So in terms of traffic, and as an example, we had total visitors, just organic traffic, from 17 to 18 of June, 17,624 to 21,075. That was an increase of 21.59%. That's pretty significant in terms of just our overall traffic that's going through our website. directory listings. There's a bunch of these directories that are out there on the web. You get yourself onto these directories, people find you. It's just an easier way of people finding you. Backlink Cleanup is something that was really interesting. It's about in terms of things that maybe aren't so great, that are old or outdated, or things that you aren't really connected to you, but somehow you end up getting connected to on the web. These are things that on the back end we were able to clean up as well, and really kind of make sure that folks were getting right to the heart of the things. And first page positions, as kind of what I mentioned in terms of when someone does a search, where are they finding you? We're number one in all of these. So when they do any of these searches, where they find Sweetwater District or one of our schools. So here's some of the results, and there's actually still some results kind of coming in, so this is, and I'll update you as we go, but these are some of the impressions we have. You just look at the numbers, they're pretty phenomenal. YouTube impressions, over 790,000. Facebook, Instagram impressions, over 737,000. Display ad impressions, and an impression is really just kind of it's out there and folks are seeing it. 1.8 million, almost 2 million. Blog posts, I said I'd come back to that. That was an interesting one that Brian's team and I worked on, and my office worked on. We took a lot of content around things like we published in Currents and things like that, and put it out as a news release. And so we'd be putting out and working with Brian's team, and we'd send out something about, let's say, CTE and our CTE program. And then all of a sudden, on the media newswire the next day, we'd get Sweetwater Schools is working on CTE programs. And the first couple times it happened, I was like, wait, did we send out a news release yesterday? And I realized that it was part of what Brian's team is doing, and they're tapped into a kind of some national PR newswires, that we were getting hits from just all over the place. We were getting hits on different education websites, on other national news sites, local sites from all different parts of the country. So we were getting hits from places that we hadn't necessarily gotten hits from before. So I think that was a really, even though it's 12, the 12 was really an impactful 12. Pandora impressions, almost 900,000. And then cable commercials, as we talked about. Over 1,100 cable commercials were broadcast. What does that mean, kind of the hard numbers in terms of inbound phone calls? So here we had about 311 phone calls, inbound form leads, 124 people filled out the form, and we had over 4,800 site visitors that came to that. We're still kind of working out what happened. So when someone filled out that form, or they made that phone call, came to them, they sent it to us, we either, if it was something quick, we'd call them back. If it was just a, hey, what school does my child go to, we'd call them back. I need information on where to go to on the website to sign up my student, we'd call them right back. There were some things that were a little more, intricate, and so we'd forward them over to student services, and they would do some follow-up with them as well. What does that translate to into actual enrollment? Because that's what we kind of got to. We can't take credit for it, but I don't know if we can. I'd like to. I'm going to say, yeah, we take credit for it. But definitely where we are in terms of our projected enrollment, we are above that currently. And so I kind of went over that, and Dr. Winters, tell me if I'm lying here. But we are slightly above that. What that actually means in terms of the folks that call this, we're still working that out, and I'll obviously have a report for you soon on that. But we definitely got the sense of our name was out there. Folks were coming to us for the last several months and have been telling us about all these things they've seen on TV, on the radio, on YouTube, on Facebook, about who we are. And as you saw, it was just a really straightforward, pretty simple, but very effective work that we were able to do. So what's next? We want to continue, I put target, because we're exploring kind of our possibilities for going forward with Target River on advertising and marketing, specifically some of the areas that we saw successful in VAPA, CTE, Compact, some of those areas that were pretty successful. And then I'll also obviously continue our work with Mobile Up. Brian, I'm not sure if you want to come up now. Is a good opportunity for you to come up and just say a couple things.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to present and just chat with you for a moment. And this was an exciting campaign to be a part of, and it was great to visit many of your campuses and just see all the amazing stories that are occurring literally every day. And that's, I think, the thing that we really try to help a district that we work with do, is tell those stories, because as you know, they are occurring literally every day in every classroom, and a lot of times the community isn't isn't aware of all that's going on and all that's really being made available for the students. And even some of the statistics that Manny was sharing was exciting to see, even higher numbers. So Manny, we got to update that a little bit. Even more, 506 inbound phone calls came. And yes, some of those were people that were planning maybe to transition, considering from one of your middle schools to your high schools. But what we loved was the connectivity and the fact that they were engaging and ensuring that maybe they were an existing parent that was going to keep their child in your school system and hopefully not consider a charter school, a private school, or an inter-district transfer to somewhere else. So part of this goal was to ensure that you keep your fold and also grow for those that might have chosen elsewhere. One of the things that we're proud of as a company is that we always deliver. So we made a commitment to your district to deliver a minimum of 6 million impressions, which is basically a set of eyes or set of ears that heard your ad during the campaign. And we were able to deliver over 7.8 million impressions through the different platforms. And so we were proud of that work and just grateful to be a part of this great district. And thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just the last thing, just a final piece I wanted to just talk about in terms of further community engagement. Obviously, our Hanover survey, as we talked about, is the annual. This will be our 4th annual survey that we go out. Our continued website work and ADA compliance, we're hard at work on that. We're in the middle of a plan that was approved by the federal government, so we're working on that. Couple of tentative, or not tentative, the state of the district is pretty solid. February the 9th, 2019, second Saturday in February, we'll be doing our 3rd annual State of the District event, so we hope to see you all there. And then tentatively, we've scheduled a school board meeting, a joint school board meeting, the second one for March 2nd. Yes, that is a Saturday, in case you're like, wait a minute, that's a Saturday. It is a Saturday, but obviously, you'll be receiving more information about that as it's confirmed. So, with that, I'll open it up to if anyone has any questions or feedback or input on what we've just talked about.
All right. Any questions from this side? Mr. Solis?
Just a real quick, great presentation. I just had a question on how it was looking for having the DLEC or the CBOC meetings on YouTube as well. I mean, maybe not live, but just on the YouTube channel.
We can talk about that. I mean, obviously, that's additional equipment, staff, et cetera, but it is a possibility. Or maybe we can work out something where somebody from staff who's already there can work on that. But the possibilities are pretty endless, and really it's a matter of, I mean, literally anybody with a phone can do the stuff we're doing. So, we're open to it. We're definitely open to it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Mr. Pike? Oh, did you want something?
No.
No, he's, yeah.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Okay.
No? Yes?
I just wanted to let you know how interesting this individual was here that spoke about his Hispanic heritage and stuff. I got 2 of his books and sent them to my father-in-law, and he said it was just like breaking into his world when he was little.
Yeah.
So he was right on the mark, and he was very good. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Yeah, that was obviously all of Dr. Bettis' work and Ms. Alvarez and her departments and her works. Mr. Vinciano is awesome, and we were just glad that we were able to be a part of that. And again, there's, if you want to go back and revisit it, it's on our YouTube channel, so you can definitely check him out and check out his talk.
So, and we did talk last meeting about doing a calendar and having that, so that's something to look forward to, a comprehensive parent involvement calendar that could be accessed and maybe through your efforts here?
Yes, definitely.
Which would be, I mean, just another stellar.
Yeah, part of what we've continued to do, and my department has continued to do, is we're trying to create, a personalized as possible for every department, every area. So we've already been in conversations with how do we create a personalized calendar for them that then would just be feeding onto the district calendar as well. So that's kind of our hope, our big dream for everybody to have that.
Right.
But there's definitely some areas, specifically in parent engagement, parent involvement, that we're working with them on how do we do that.
Thank you. And I think what we're hearing is that, like we hear comments occasionally from the public or even from our own experiences where the website is a little bit challenging to navigate or to really find the some of the information as I do searches is outdated, but I know you're working on that, you have a plan, and we're also, unlike many other districts, meeting the requirements of the challenges for the visually impaired and the to make it compliant with and accessible to everyone. So I appreciate your efforts on that.
Thank you.
And I really like the information you provided, and I really like what Brian said about telling your story, really what's going on good. I think that's where we really haven't been able to focus on that, so it's nice to have that out there. And I did have people say, I heard about your school, your district, I heard about your, on the radio, or I saw an advertisement on something. So people are seeing it, and I appreciate that too. So
Yeah, it's exciting because we can definitely say from, even the ads, all that, those are our students. Those were things that we worked with Brian and his team, that stuff that we already shot ourselves, a lot of the drone footage is from our office. It's stuff that we didn't have to make up. We weren't creating some whole new initiative to do this. This was already things that were already in place. We were just telling the story. So that's definitely, it was very exciting for us.
speaking of the drone, the drone, they had that at the ribbon cutting at Hilltop High.
Yeah.
They droned at, and did a lot of that. And I think it was on YouTube the next day. I think I saw part of it. So, yeah, it's out there. And I appreciate the work and of the consultant as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Tarantino, did you have anything?
Nope, it's all been said. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Hall?
Yes?
Real quick, so I remembered one other thing I was gonna add was, I really appreciate the speakers like Mr. Pike mentioned, Mr. Villavicenor, and I forget the name of the gentleman who's at the Equity Symposium.
Dr. Noguera.
Yeah, Pedro. These are, I really like, they're not like your average speakers. These are like really, they're not going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you what needs to be done and the challenges that we have and, in ways that we can get there. So I really appreciate that. That's something that not every district would do. And I appreciate the leadership here in bringing those dynamic speakers to our community and to the team.
And again, that's all Dr. Fulcher and his team's work, so we can't take credit. Our credit is really just making sure that it's documented and that we can tell that story later on. So again, that's been part of, at least for me and my team, that's the exciting part, is we can document it and keep telling that story over and over. So.
And one of the things I want to say, and thank Dr. Janney and her leadership team, and you, as when they do have, those top leaders, when they come here, they're excited about what's going on here.
Yeah.
They come already knowing that great things are going on in Sweetwater Union High School District because they've heard of it. And that's what the story needs to be. So I really appreciate it. Those things on restorative practice, all the things we're doing in our communities, tremendous work is going on in our district. So thank you for taking that and shining a light on
All
it.
right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, so we're not voting on this. This is just an informational item. Phew, got that one right. All right, so now we're on to item G2. And that was pulled by myself and Mr. Tarantino. So, Mr. Tarantino, you can go while I shuffle my papers.
Okay, all right. I had a question about, in the analysis, it says, the agreement is entered into for the purpose of providing students the opportunity to recuperate credit digitally to meet graduation requirements and meet college readiness requirements. Does that mean that they're A to G classes, or are they prep classes to enter a college without having to take remediation courses? Or is it both?
Good evening.
Ms. Alvarez?
Good evening, Mrs. Hall, board members, Superintendent Janney, and our cabinet, and our members of the community. So it means that we offer courses that are credit recovery, but are A through G, satisfy A through G requirements.
So it's not I think it was the readiness that threw me, because I interpreted that as taking classes so that students would be at a level where when they entered college, they wouldn't have to take a remediation course for English, say, for example, or math or whatever.
These courses satisfy an A through G requirement, but if you're talking about some of the other courses that we offer that are not online, such as something that would be a conditional requirement for entering SDSU, for example, which would be our expository reading and writing curriculum, or a fourth year of math that would support students who may have been conditionally allowed to be enrolled, but would have to take a course to make sure that they were at level, which would be that college level readiness.
Okay, thank you.
And
That's all, Madam.
I do have to make a correction. There was an error on the fiscal impact. It's a rather large difference. The number on there says 238,350. The actual number for this account is actually 79,450. So there's been a very large reduction over the last 5 years in the contract, and from this year to last year, we actually reduced it by an additional $2,000.
Okay. So, thank you. Anything further, Mr. Tarantino? No. Anyone else need it? Mr. Solis?
Yes, Ms. Alvarez, do we have any data on how this has helped previous students?
We do. So I pulled last year's data. Last year, we had about 890 users, and of those, the average grade for the students completing the course was about an 83%. We do offer about 22 different courses in the 4 core content areas. We usually do not use the science as much because of the lab component, but we do in the math, English, and social sciences. And we have an opportunity to expand. We currently have those courses to expand into the CTE world. We just want to make sure that they're aligned with the current course of study and pathways that we offer.
Good to hear. Thank you.
I can provide the courses and the passage rate and that information in a board update.
I would appreciate that, yes, thank you.
Okay. So, thank you. Mr. Segura, did you have a question? Okay, so I had a question about that, similar to Mr. Solis. And is this connected at all to what we did for the CTE courses where they were doing things online?
So the CTE was an Edmentum contract.
Oh, that's it.
And that one we did through, we funded through our College and Career Readiness Block Grant. We no longer have that funding, so we're going to focus using our LCAP dollars on Apex and utilizing what we currently have.
Okay. And so my question was about the system we have to ensure that we're tracking how this is helping students. And like you said, you had 890 students complete the courses or take the courses through here.
Completers.
Okay.
Completers. And so we have that disaggregated by school and by student, ultimately. So we do quarterly meetings with Apex, and the executive director from the program actually comes and meets with us and gives us a quarterly debrief. And so I have those, and then I also have an annual summary with that data.
So does it track how many hours a student spends on the curriculum?
It does.
And are they doing that at our campus or off campus?
So we have on campus, we utilize it in the learning centers, and then we have some where the actual practice and going through the coursework occurs off campus, but the testing occurs on campus.
So give me an example of what would occur off campus.
So actually going through the units of study, and they could do potentially the quizzes, but once it comes to the final assessment, that assessment is done on campus in a lab.
And you compare how they've done on quizzes to what that
You can
final
monitor,
testing
the
is?
person who monitors that can go through and see the passage rate. We set the passage rates to make sure that it meets a minimum standard.
Okay, and Are they doing, is this curriculum it's software, right? So
It's
is it
software, yes.
downloaded to their device?
It's a web-based that they can actually
Okay,
log in.
So they have licenses?
So we have
for-
what are called rotating licenses.
Okay.
So I can have 1,000 students at any time use it. As soon as one of those students vacates, I can put another student into that license.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. If there's no further questions, I really appreciate all the information you had to share with us, Ms. Alvarez. If there's no further questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve item G2.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by
I'll second.
Solis, a second by Pike. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes?
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, so now we're on to item G6, right? Oh, and I'm the one who pulled it. Okay, so let me find it. I think I marked the wrong thing. Oh, is this that's why I didn't put it in the, okay, so this is the G6? Oh, yeah, why is there no financial impact on this? Ms. Carberry?
Because Dr. Winters is an extreme negotiator.
Awesome. Kudos to you.
The
Dr.
county likes us? I don't know.
Okay.
We had an opportunity to work with them previously, and this was an opportunity for us at no cost.
Awesome. I just wanted to make sure that that was actually accurate, why you asked that question. So thank you, and I appreciate that. So kudos to Dr. Winter and to you, Dr. Carberry. So I will entertain a motion, if there's no questions on this item, to approve.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Segura, second by Solis. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Yes.
Hall?
Yes?
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, H1, and I did that one too. Well, maybe I have it right here. H1. Okay, so this is probably for you, Dr. Fulcher. So this is about the South Bay Community Services and their services in collaboration with a couple of our feeder districts. And we're not moving, I thought we were moving to in-house delivery of some of these services. So is this in lieu of us doing that ourselves?
Not at all. We've made significant progress towards having our own staff support our students. If you look at our mental health team, there's a number of folks who are providing services. Part of our LCAP funding goes towards staff supporting a lot of those students who would be targeted by South Bay Community Services or Chula Vista Collaborative. So we're making substantial progress in this area, but even if we were fully staffed, we'd still need support from our community agencies.
Okay, and I figured as much, but I wanted to make sure. And is there any assurance, can we require that the fingerprinting of their staff be shared with us? The fingerprinting and other testing that goes on for them to be qualified to work in our...
Yeah, so in the contract for both agencies, we demand and require fingerprinting, a background check, and that's pretty standard before any staff member works with our student. If you're asking if they could share that information with us, I don't think they'd be opposed to telling us those employees have been cleared to work with our district students.
Okay, and is it, I know the insurance is probably for like if there's an accident with their employee on our district, but is there something that protects us in case something happens there's a liability incurred because of their employee?
So up until about, I think it was last year when our general counsel negotiated new terms, the liability insurance was, I think, $1 million with a $2 million general limit. And with her support, it's now $2 million as a minimum for the liability, and I think the maximum we would support is about $4 million. So $2 and $4 million from the 1 and 2 that we've had up until last year, and we're pretty confident that that amount will cover us from any liabilities this year as well.
So if something happens with a student because of conduct by one of their employees, that's what that's for?
It should cover us, yes.
Okay.
And we also insist that they have equal coverage.
All right. Okay. Thank you. So if nobody else has questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve item G6.
I'll second.
Item H1, sorry. So I had a motion by, which one?
Solis.
By Solis and a second by Pike.
Yes.
Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes?
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
So now we have the CBOC report. Mr. Marinovich?
Good evening, President Hall, members of the board, Superintendent Janney. I'm going to have a bifurcated report here, one a more formal approach to deliverance, and then I'll end with a sort of a storytelling issue that's been very stressful and contentious the last few days. But be as it said, the good news is the Chula Vista Middle School was very well kept. Didn't see a piece of trash. So, you know, we've had campuses where it's been a little sketchy. This was not one of them. Showed pride of ownership. The second thing we just saw and discussed at the meeting, and it's going to be an issue that you're going to have to consider as you move forward, and actually your videos reminded me specifically of why this is important, is understandably in what we discovered in course of our site tour, is some of the actually, if you did get the bond money, exactly how you're going to pull it, you know, how you specifically going to phase the projects, how's this going to be pulled off. You've got a prioritization of projects by the district, and you got that, you know, each school, but, you know, it's the nitty-gritty execution that's still under refinement. So that's important to know. And it's also important to know that as one of the roles of the Bond Oversight Committee, and I just thought of it tonight, and I've seen it because I attend other school district meetings as a part of that little new outside endeavor that I have, writing for an online deal. And like La Mesa Spring Valley and the Mountain Empire and some of the East County districts, is there's competition related to charter schools. And charter schools are there's a potential you have to be concerned about, you know, competition and what the expenditures are, and there's always that pull and tug with future boards are going to have that issue. And that's like one of the issues that a Bond Oversight Committee can review, that we don't fall into some expenditures that may not be related to what was on the ballot measure. And that's just one example of why a Bond Oversight Committee is very important. I was thinking when seeing these ads, as information really is what they are, but it's definitely good. That's the trend in school districts, is a recognition of a reality, and we're to report on how you're doing with regard to that. But in terms of the actual, what we saw at the committee meeting, it was that you're really getting started again on some projects as a result of Bond Sale 3. And I tell you, I've been here a long time. It's so much more organized than it was a long time ago. I mean, it's like, you know, geez, it's just way better, way better. And the district is to be commended for that. We did talk a little bit about, the PLA was going to be on our radar, and you're probably tired of hearing that, but it's just a constant reminder of that. But what I wanted to get to, and that's most important to you, perhaps in the near, and I know it's a sensitive issue, but we after after, or actually up until when you're about ready to vote on the bond measure, and our committee had just voted to support the bond measure with 2 conditions which you met, and I even thought, well, support means, what is support, and and I said, my initial reaction, well, why wouldn't I sign the ballot measure? We supported it. And then I got to thinking about it, and when I was asked whether I would, and I said, well, at minimum, I would always want to share that with the Bond Oversight Committee. And then I thought, when it sort of doesn't, and I'm being totally honest with you, that's the only way I can be. I can't sugarcoat anything I do. I haven't done that ever in my career, and I'm not doing it now. I got to thinking, what really makes this committee operate good is that we're independent, and we're accountable, and it's, as you know in government, everything is your reputation. Everything. Karen Michaels knows that after this many years. Everything is your reputation. And so my concern as chair of the committee, and I think the committee, is that we not be perceived as being aligned with any group. And so we before I basically thought about it, and I said, what I'm going to do as chair, I'm going to form a subcommittee. And the subcommittee is people that have been around the block, they have government experience, been on the committee, and we're going to talk about it within ourselves. So we did that, and we kind of came to the conclusion with the subcommittee is that the bond committee ought to take a passive role in the campaign. We ought to just sit back. We said, yeah, it's good, put it on the ballot, but, we'll stay out of it because we ought to be focused on what our core mission is. Yeah. And it's like and I'm going to be a little bit longer tonight because this is really, really important. John McCain talked about principles before personalities. If you know about AA, one of the reasons why that organization is successful is they have a singular focus, not drinking. And they have what they call traditions, where you don't accept outside contributions. You don't get involved in political events. And that's why that organization is successful. Well, bond oversight, though it's this different mission, in a way it's like that. We have a focused mission. So here's the upshot of it, though. And I had to tell you that philosophical bent is, so I sent out an email to the committee saying, I think we should not get involved, and I will not. And I told the person who contacted me specifically what I was not going to sign the ballot support as chair. So, I sent out an email to the committee saying why I did that, and on August 4th. And so things were proceeding, and I got being a lot of input that the Bond Oversight Committee maybe had gotten too far afield of what our mission was and concerns. So, and this is like juggling these balls, trying to juggle the balls of doing everything, and we put an item on our agenda that this meeting, which was the focus, back to the chair report, a focus of the discussion at the end of the meeting. And the upshot of that was, is that we didn't want to reach a final decision, number one. Number two, we update the bond scorecard, and we want to have all members there to discuss it. Well, subsequent to the meeting, and this is where time is not on your side if you're in my position, is I got a copy of the ballot argument for the bond measure, and it was signed by our vice chair, Daniel Gutowski. And it was not, none of us knew that, frankly, I don't know how else I have to tell you the truth, none of us knew that he had signed it until I read it and then forwarded it to the committee. So, what overlays all this is the First Amendment rights. It gets very complicated, and very a little above my pay grade, some of this stuff, but I'm doing, I think I got it though. I do understand. And so, I said, now what do I do? So the bottom line is I consulted my colleagues, 4 of them, and then there was a lot of email exchange. And I said, you know what, this is such an important issue because it involves the integrity of the committee and perception. And we didn't want to have, what I was hearing loud and clear is we wouldn't want to be associated with any quote, special interest group that's supporting the ballot measure. That's the crux of the concern. So I guess the conclusion I'd like to leave you with is our role as a committee is to report to the public how you're spending the money, hold the district accountable, and give you the pluses and minuses of what you're doing, and to the maximum extent possible, try to not get involved in these external things like this, other than report to the public what we think is really good about what's happening with the district as well. I mean, we're not to be your enemies, you know, but it's very important that we operate and act independently with accountability and integrity, and so I just wanted to relay that, you know, and it's probably way, you know, it's a story that probably is very difficult for me to tell in front of an elected body like this. I get concerned about personalities and everybody involved, but we're just trying to do the right thing for the district. That's the bottom line. And I feel though to clear the air and make sure there's no more, you know, just clear the air, is that they'll, and I do want to consult with 3 other members to make sure they concur with what I think we should have a very short, focused, special meeting to air and discuss this very important issue. So I'll be dealing with this in the next day or two, and there may be a way it could be done with some remote things. I know, you know, that I've actually been involved in meetings where I was in halfway across the United States for a bond oversight committee, as long as you notify where you're at. You know, you're at the Motel 6 somewhere in Kentucky, you know, you can have the meeting. So anyway, thank you for listening to me. And I forgot to start out on a lighter note before if you want to ask me any questions after this soliloquy, is Karen Michael has been, just 2 things I remember about Karen Michael. The first one is she likes the Doors. And she's old enough to remember the Doors like me. And she knows, other than the Beatles, different category, the Doors are the best rock and roll band ever. The second.
She likes the Doors. She likes the deep voice.
Oh, forgot. The second thing is, and for that's again what government like Trustee Hall and, you know, is there's the quiet, methodical doers that sit and just grind it out every day and just do it. And so much of what Karen Michael does is totally thankless work. I mean, really, it is thankless work. And I totally understand, though I didn't have to do it myself, worked a lot, and I know her job is not easy, and it really wasn't easy a few years ago. So I want to wish her well, and she's going to enjoy Monday mornings when you don't have to go to work. So anyway.
Does anyone have questions?
No. But
Mr. Solis?
I just have a comment, listening, the way, when I read that and just listening, thank you for your honesty. But when I look at the way, you know, the process has gone, if, like, let's say, compared to a classroom, if I was a teacher and I gave my students a certain rubric on what to follow, and the student followed it, but then I look at it and I look back and I'm like, well, wait a minute, let me think about this. Again, let me change what needs to, because an outside entity supports something. I'm not going to change what I told the student that I was going to grade them on. So then, in the end, if I've changed that grade, then I had done that student a disservice. So just to say that I'm a little disappointed, okay, because I mean we did what we said we were going to do with regards to the bond. But I just wanted to let you know, I appreciate the honesty and everything, but just from the perspective of the board, or for myself, really, if I was to change that, you know what I mean?
No, let's let the
we
board make...
We can have
Yeah, I
coffee
think you've said
one day.
your
That'll be-
point. You've said your report. I think that it's the board's turn I need to listen to what the board has to say now. You
So
can
we'll make time for coffee, Mr. Marinovich. Okay, so.
Mr. Segura? No? Mr. Pike?
No.
Mr. Tarantino?
Yes, I had a question about the San Diego Taxpayer Association. It said they reviewed our bond program, but yet Mr. McCurry could not comment on the outcome. Has the San Diego through the chair, has the San Diego Taxpayers Association commented to us in terms of whether they are in support or not support of this, or is it still pending?
Have they officially notified our district?
Thank you, President Hall.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Hall. At this time, we have not heard directly from them. It is my understanding they're not supportive, and that's based on their they've posted it on their website, so it's pretty public. They didn't take the courtesy to notify us. That's just the reality.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I also, I hesitate to comment. Maybe I shouldn't comment, but we were following the procedure. We have done a lot of work around meeting with every school multiple times, walking every campus, having multiple studies done by staff, by outside consultants, by the bond oversight input, which they're freely giving every meeting, more than any other bond oversight committee ever does. We've had multiple staff, teachers, parents, community members weigh in on what we're doing with planning the next steps for our facilities, which are in dire need of modernization. We have schools that are needed. There's so much need, and we have gone well beyond trying to satisfy performance audit. We've done deep audits. We've done focus audits. We've done everything. We have everything out on the website. All you have to do is call up Dr. Aguirre's office, and staff is willing to walk you through whatever fiscal information you need. They have it at their fingertips. It's very transparent, and it's very clear that this is a district that wants to provide information and do the right thing. We were informed that the total bond oversight committee had met and was supporting. That was what we were informed. That was what the chair reported in front of us at an open meeting, the last meeting. And so we've done what we need to do, and it won't change what we're doing, is my opinion. I don't believe that the board is going to reverse their vote on what we've done. We've placed a bond on the November ballot, and the public will weigh in. That's the way the process works, and our students will either be winners or they won't be, based on what happens in November. And I think that going back and selecting a few people to meet with so that you can change a stand that you've already taken, to me, that's not transparent, and it's not inclusive. And I regret that you feel that you should be doing it like that, because I don't think it's fair for our students. And that's all I have to say about that. So we're moving on to item M1. M2? No, we haven't done M1 yet. Oh, but we don't have it pulled, huh? It's not pulled, that's why. Sorry, thank you. Thank you for keeping me honest. M2. And that was pulled by moi. And this is, about the council Hunsaker consultant and naming the architect, for, well, the items on this having to do with the Mar Vista High pool. And I just am thankful that it's moving forward and that we're taking the steps that we need to do to get this going and underway. And I'm sure that the community and the school and the students will be on multiple campuses, will be, because you know that one of the students who is a water polo player on Southwest High that doesn't have a pool, but they practice and play at Mar Vista, their student was named as one of the athletes to focus on in the UT paper last week, where they called out multiple players for these are the kids that are going to really be spectacular. One of the students from that school, and I think it's a student of Easter Finley. I believe it's her son. I could be wrong, but anyway, I just want to say that that school wouldn't have that opportunity, and others like that wouldn't have that opportunity. So I'm very excited for this project, and I want to thank you for the hard work that you guys, and you back there, thank you. So that's all I had to say. Would anyone else have any comments? Then I'll entertain a motion to approve item M2. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion to approve by Hall, second by Pike. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
N1 is, I think I pulled that one too. Sorry, guys, but N1 is the confirmation orders, and there's one that caught my eye.
N1 is the purchase order report.
Oh, it is? But isn't it on the confirmation? Oh, N2.
N2 is the confirmation received report.
Okay, so I pulled the wrong one. Can we?
It's probably in there.
Okay. Let me just pull it up. Ratify. Well, it's the confirmation purchase orders. No. I wanted N2. Can we rescind it? Never mind. I'll make the point. I made the point with Dr. Janney. She can share that with staff. All right, so now we're on to,
You need a motion for N1.
oh, yeah. Can we
move
have
to
a
ratify
motion for
N1.
N1? I have a motion by
I'll make a
Solis
motion. I'll second.
and a second by Pike. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item Q3.
Yes, I have two speakers. Matty Adado.
Go ahead.
I gave you the opportunity before our last board meeting to do the right thing, but clearly you didn't. The guidelines in which a board member may be reimbursed for a missed meeting is my issue. Attached in this packet that you just received, you will find the following. Board Bylaw 9250A, Ed Code 35120, Mr. Segura's tweets, and the definition of hardship. I am asking you as a board to read what I have given you and answer the following question. Was Mr. Segura representing the Sweetwater Union High School District, the students, or the community in Sacramento, or working for his day job and getting paid to lobby for his union, as reflected by his tweets on 8/13? I think the later is that case.
Is it on? Yeah. Everyone is aware that I am familiar with the procedure. In this case, I know Ms. Facedo has to reach out to each of you before putting reimbursements on the agenda. This clearly indicates that since it's on the agenda, Mr. Segura okayed it. The arrogance I'm seeing from certain board members oddly reminiscent of board members from our not-so-distant past. 3 of you are up for re-election, unopposed, but that doesn't mean all of you will finish your elected term. Yes, Mr. Segura, I am addressing you. The man that used to sit in a very similar seat thought he was untouchable. His arrogance and lack of respect for the rules resulted in a stiff penalty. Mrs. Hall, what I am requesting is that you instruct legal counsel to issue an opinion clarifying the following question before you vote on this tonight. What constitutes hardship? Does lobbying for your day job fall into that category of hardship? And if Mrs. Hall decides not to do this, I challenge you, any one of you board members, to ask that question. Keep in mind these meetings are recorded and you are creating a legal record of your actions. And there are a lot of people watching and listening, as Mr. Rubio indicated. If Ms. Garbuccia is asked to reply to my question, please have her keep it to a simple yes, no, or a simple explanation, and not a 5-minute one that does not clarify or answer the question. This board creates and follows guidelines for every action they adopt. It could be a selection process, an expulsion process. What makes this issue immune to the rules set forth by the bylaws of the board? If you also look at the Ed Code, you should only be paid $750 based on the ADA for this district, not approximately the over $800 you are currently being paid. I will not accept anything less than a written answer to my question. I know there are other community members and press who would want to know why we are paying someone who clearly has not met the standard for this payment.
Thank you.
If it is equivalent, for me, this is equivalent to theft of public funds. In my mind, I have a sordid history.
Your time is up.
I'm
Thank
glad.
you.
And the
Your
previous
time is up.
history
Thank
of
you.
being
Your
referred
time is
back.
up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stuart Payne?
So I won't go into everything that Ms. Adado has already covered, but I will read the tweet that was sent at 8:13 at about 9:15 from some gentleman I don't know. And he says, had a great dinner tonight with my brother from another mother. And he puts Board Member Segura's Twitter handle and the next governor of California, Gavin Newsom. Great talk about creating thousands of IBEW jobs and investing in grid modernization. And then there's a photo of the 3 of them attached. So, if you look at your board policy and the state law, because they both say the same thing, a member may be paid for meetings he or she missed when the board, by resolution, finds that he or she was performing designated services for the district at the time of the meeting. So we know, based on the tweet, that they were talking about IBEW business, not the district business. So you don't qualify. The next is jury duty. Wasn't on jury duty. So, ladies and gentlemen, the only other thing you have is a hardship. And you're going to have a pretty hard time arguing that a hardship exists when he's in Sacramento for a union event that he tweets about the next day. I'm at the IBEW lobbying event or whatever it is. Mr. Segura, what I would request you do is withdraw the request. If he doesn't withdraw the request, then the rest of you should not approve this. If you do, it's a gift of public funds, and if you've done this previously with any other board members, if they can't justify either a hardship, jury duty, or district business, then those funds should be paid back. I'm prepared to write a letter to the district attorney and the county grand jury on this issue, should you approve this. It would
Thank
be
you.
a gift of public funds. Since I got 17 seconds here.
Oh, I'm sorry. You got 17 seconds. Go ahead.
It
I'm
would
sorry.
be, and I was about to stop, but since you're cutting me off,
I'll let you go
I'll
on.
repeat.
You
It
can
would
have
be
10
a
seconds
gift
more.
of public funds.
Okay.
It would be a gift of public funds.
No further speakers.
Thank you. Is there any questions from a board member? Any comments? Then I'll call for the vote, or a motion to approve the item. Q.
Real quick, Ms.
Yes.
Small, if I may, from Ms. Carbuccia.
All right.
Ms. Carbuccia, with regards to the compensation and gift of public funds,
With regard to that, what
Yeah,
is of an opinion?
yes, your opinion.
So 35120, Section A, 2 states that if you have, or excuse me, A3 states that if you have 60,000 or less students, but more than 25, we may have compensation up to $750. So as it relates to the compensation issue, we're there. The code says hardship. I would need to research the definition. There is not a definition of hardship. So that would be something I need to look into.
All right. Huh?
I don't really care.
So I would see about holding this over to get a definition of hardship from our general counsel. That was okay with the board.
All right. I don't, Mr. Tarantino?
I have a question based on what Ms. Carbuccia said. So if the legal compensation that we're supposed to be getting is $750, why are we getting more? We didn't ask for that, so what?
Is there a benefit?
So very commonly, the ed codes have regulatory scaling provisions that take them up. I would have to look at the date and time, date this was passed. Similarly, we have commonly, there's a number of code provisions like on gifts that potentially folks can take that used to be at 400 that annually are scaled up. The law itself doesn't change, so we need to look at the regulatory guidance, and I could do that after this meeting. I'm just reading you what was stated in the code as, that was stated by Ms. Adato.
May I continue?
Yes, please.
And again, there's a definition of hardship, or probably a legal definition of hardship, but when we took this position, we did not give up our right to have a job. And I am lucky in that I am retired, and so I don't have the day-to-day responsibilities that three of you have. And I don't know, having worked with CTA retired and being an executive officer, I can tell you that lobbying is part of the job of an executive officer. I can tell you that, because when I went to various functions, whenever the opportunity to lobby elected officials or whomever, that was part of our responsibility to keep in the forefront what we wanted to do as an association. And so, you know, I'm just telling you from my point of view, having been associated with the union and being an executive officer, that was the expectation wherever we went. So, you know, and again, this job doesn't preclude us from not being able to make a living. And I'm fortunate in that, you know, I did my stint, and now I have other responsibilities. But I just needed to say that out loud.
Right, and I know this is going to be twisted around because those that want to say negative stuff are going to say it no matter what you do. But I will say that Mr. Segura has worked harder for this district than anybody else on behalf of the district and on behalf of the students. His time goes well beyond board meetings that he spends building collaboratively with groups across the district, bringing in opportunities for students. So I think that you don't understand what it's like to be in our place. You don't, $700 sounds like, maybe that sounds like a lot to you, but what we do, well, please, I'm talking now, it's my turn, okay? Oh, I interrupted you, so I'll let you say one more thing if you want after I'm done. This is, and I don't know for sure, but I can honestly say that he advocates for us, for this district, a lot. And hardship may be interpreted by you or by somebody else in a way. This board has the ability and we have the authority to interpret it that for us, for our district and for our students. That's our role, is to interpret the policies that we have in place and to apply the rules and regulations and make those decisions based on what we believe is correct.
Ms. Hall, and I missed something, I'm sorry. Section E of that policy, which was adopted in 2002, allows this board to do an increase in compensation of 5% annually above the limits listed, and that is allowable by law. So we need to look back at what year you adopt this policy, but this policy, this law was adopted in 2002, so at a scaling rate of 5% each year, should you so decided, we wouldn't be above that limit. So I did want to just let you know that again, this is normally why we don't automatically give advice at a board meeting. We wait and actually give a full opinion, which is what I'd like to do, but I did want to clarify that for you.
Are you talking about the compensation?
Yeah, I know, but Miss, I just want to make sure before we leave that point that there isn't a thought that we are.
And we haven't done that, right?
Yes.
Since we've been elected and taken office, we've never given ourselves a raise.
The amount.
Correct?
Yeah.
All right,
exactly.
so whatever that compensation was, that was established before we took office.
So, President Hall?
Yes.
So I'd just like to add something really quick. You know, I'm not going to get dragged down in any of this like people want me to, but I'll just state that I do a lot of work, and I really, put a lot of time in on behalf of the district. And I could tell you when I did have dinner, and the only reason why I didn't make the meeting, I was planning on coming here that day until I got asked to have dinner with probably the next governor of California, and I did speak with him on school issues in regarding to Sweetwater, regarding to the whole state. So I did have that discussion with him. So just to let you know that, I'm not gonna, I'm just gonna leave it right there. So thank you.
Thank you. I feel, and Mr. Payne, if you want to finish up before I hear what you're saying.
The issue isn't, and what he does for the district is not in question. That's not in question. The issue is, was he doing district business on jury duty or have some sort of hardship on August the 13th?
The hardship can be interpreted by us by saying he couldn't get off work, all right? I mean, that's our prerogative as a board to make that interpretation. I do believe that. Isn't that correct?
Your policy doesn't say that, so you need to spell out what a hardship is in your policy.
No.
You do. I mean, you can't just randomly say, oh, it's a hardship.
I understand you guys are frustrated. And you pick on Mr. Segura all the time, every chance you get. So I mean, this is a prime opportunity for you to do that. So, that's all. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I really can say that for everything he does, This doesn't even come close to covering or compensating them. But we can, we did have a motion or a ask by Mr. Solis to delay this to table it till next meeting, or to
get
postpone it?
yes, so we can get the meeting of hardship from our council.
Dr. Janney?
The actual policy says, a member may be paid for meetings he or she missed when the board by resolution finds that he or she was performing designated services for the district at the time of the meeting, or that he or she was absent because of illness, jury duty, or a hardship deemed acceptable by the board. So that's what we need.
And that right now is what it says, is deemed acceptable by the board. If you as a board via Mr. Solis ask me to go see if there's legal interpretation of what hardship means, I'm happy to do that, but right now the board policy clearly states as deemed by the board.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Solis to table this. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Wait, do you want to do, is that procedural, what I just did? I mean,
No, I just was clarifying if you made a formal motion to withdraw.
no, he didn't.
That's what I'm,
Not to withdraw.
Mr. Segura or myself?
no, you,
No,
Mr.
no, no.
Solis.
No, I didn't.
So we wouldn't take any action, it wouldn't be a motion to table, right? It would just, no.
He didn't make any formal motion, that was what I was trying to say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, making the motion to hold it over while we get a definition from Ms. Carbucci, a legal definition from Ms. Carbucci.
Would it change?
I think where
Would it
Ms.
change?
Vicedo is going is, absent a motion, if you just chose not to take action, that would be tabling it. You don't need to take
Oh,
a
okay.
motion to
Sounds
table,
good.
I think is.
We'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So what I said I would entertain a motion, so as long as nobody motions, was anybody going to make a motion to approve this item? Or we all agree to wait? Okay. All right, so that's it. Now we'll take on public comment.
You have F3, ma'am?
What?
F3?
F3.
Oh, F3.
F3
Oh,
and board
F3, that's right. F3. Mr. Tarantino?
Yes, Madam President. I noticed in the CBOC report that there still is some confusion as to the HAR settlement funds and where those funds were deposited and what they've been used for. So if perhaps in a Friday update, we can have that information. I think it was brought to my, I think we discussed it, that it was put back into the, I don't remember which fund, but back in the facilities fund or something like that, because that's where it came out of, or at least that's what it was going to be dealing with. But if we could have clarification on that. And then based on the discussion tonight about, a rebuttal, a take back, if we can have some kind of information in terms of, are all those things, I don't want to say legal, but are they allowable now since the bond issue has been, the bond has been approved for the ballot, and I know that in terms of when we were running, if we had changes to be made for our ballot statement, once the deadline was passed, we couldn't do anything. We were stuck, misspelled words or whatever. And I don't know if the same rules apply to a ballot measure. So if we could just get some clarification in terms of what's allowable and what's not allowable. And again, that's based on my experience, what they told me when I turned in my ballot statement, that I had to make sure that it was done, because that was it, one and done.
Yeah, you don't get seconds. So, thank you. I would like to have a report on the libraries, on our school libraries. Like, what's the focus of it now? everything's going digital. What's the focus of the library? I know I've heard from some staff that seem to be a little frustrated with what their tasks of their job are involving and how it's shifted quite a bit since the onset of having devices, student devices, and the time that it takes to manage those devices. And so I kind of want to hear what we're doing with our libraries and what the focus of it is, and how do we replenish books? I looked up here on the shelf, and I want to comment that Mr. Montano's school has, their library looks really nice. I like all the pictures and the posters, and it looks engaging, and it's clean, and it's bright. It looks like students could really come together and do some studying and some really great things here. I think it's a wonderful environment, and I'm excited about it. And I would want to come. I know my youngest one, I used to go check on my oldest one when he would be studying after school to make sure he was actually at the library studying after school. My youngest one, he sought refuge in the library. That was his preferred place to go. So I'm sure he would have loved your school and loved being in this environment. So I kind of want to know how they replenish those books, because when I look up here, they have some Guinness World Record books that a little bit outdated. So how often do they replenish or get to order new books for the library? And is it possible that it's all on the school to do that, or is it district funding that does that? Do we have, is it appropriate to use some of the lottery instructional material money towards replenishing libraries? You know, so a report, just kind of a comprehensive report about libraries and what we're doing and how they're staffed and what's going on with them would be maybe next spring by the time we get to it. There's so much going on this fall and winter, but, you know, Dr. Janney, that would be just really great if we could learn about that, I think. And so with that, we'll go to board reports. Mr. Solis?
Thank you, President Hall. I just wanted to thank Mr. Rubio and Ms. Vicedo for giving me the talking points for the Lumpia Club meeting. At the meeting held in Villa Manila, they have a little session with business, schools, different people in the community, and they had me and Ms. Vargas, Nora from Southwestern, speak, and I want to thank them for giving me the talking points, and it was a great opportunity to talk about our partnership and talk about things going on here at our district. And also I want to thank Dr. Fulcher for connecting me with Ms. Michelle from the Samahan Clinic, and gave me a little tour and talking to me about the things that they're doing to improve the partnership with the district and with Granger. So it looks like it's moving in the right direction, so little by little we're getting there. But thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Segura?
Sure. I was able to attend the Castle Park. I went to 3 open houses, and I have one planned for Thursday when I get back from Chicago. But I attended the Castle Park High School open house where my daughter goes, and it was really good. I always enjoy, seeing all the students perform, and then going to my daughter's classes and talking to the teachers. I also did the same at Mr. Romero, Principal Romero's at Hilltop. It was really good. Same experience, and really good fresh fruit. And then I actually went over to Palomar High School and just swung by there. I saw that Mr. Trustee Pike was there earlier, so I had to go check on what he was up to. He got there with the good food, and I was already gone by the time I got there. But I sat in one of the English teachers, Grady and Garnett, and listened to their presentation to the teacher, to the parents there, and I found it really interesting that, and I actually got in there right after they started, so I didn't have a chance. I don't like to surprise anybody, but I went up to them right after and said, hey, I'm here just, as a board member, just, not trying to sneak up on you or anything. But they were like, oh, no, we're so grateful that you're here. And then I went and found the principal, Mrs. Hernandez, And, but anyways, just hearing them say like they have like on Wednesdays, they have, it's an English class, so on Wednesdays, they actually don't put any, they don't have the computers out. They actually, the students actually communicate talking to each other, face to face, and I thought it was really a good, you know, something really pretty cool. You know, when we give all the students laptops as they need to write and study and stuff, but I thought that was a nice twist. But I really enjoyed that. And like I mentioned, on Thursday, I'm scheduled to go to Dr. Reyes's at San Isidro. He invited me over there. So I'm going to go to that. And I'm happy to announce that that my union and the contractors are still sponsoring the third annual solar car sprint. And this year it's at Montgomery. It's September 8th. It starts at, I believe it starts at 9. But you might want to check, it's on the calendar.
Montgomery Middle.
Montgomery Middle, yeah. So we have, I think we're going to have another 200 to 300 students there. We bought the 50 solar car kits and T-shirts and all that sort of stuff. So that's really a good time. And if you haven't been there to experience that, it's really fun to see them do that. So I'm very happy with that. And, you know, we're in National City, so I'd like to congratulate my wife, Dr. Leticia Segura, who was appointed principal of John Otis Elementary last week. So one of our feeder schools, so I'm very proud of her, and wish her a belated happy birthday, because she just turned 50 on Friday, and I threw a party for her, so not like I forgot or anything, so it was
Awesome.
she's a youngster, so
Happy birthday, Leticia.
with that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pike?
Yeah, I just want to let you know that Palomar is alive and breathing, and they love their new basketball hoop. Thank you very much.
They do.
They say they play it every day. The kids are out there playing. And Dr. Aguirre, you went overboard and putting in all the equipment, and I really appreciate it, and so do they. And it's really nice to see them, because they appreciate every little thing you do. I even brought them a popcorn machine, because one of my buddies gave me an extra one, and we don't use it, so I gave it to them, and they were very happy to have that. But Ms. Hernandez is just doing a really good job. All the teachers are very receptive.